Hey Rovers, I know what you're probably thinking. Hey Alan, that doesn't look like the boat shed, and you're absolutely right. We are inside Rover's Rest, the house that I built this past summer. And the reason is this is a special extra video. Now this Friday, in 2 days' time, I will be giving you a walkthrough of the boat, the state that it's in right now, which is just a little over 3 months before launch. I think you'll be astonished at where I am because you haven't had an update now in quite a while. You'll be astonished at the speed that I've been able to get where I am, but also I think you'll have an appreciation of what is left to be done in the next 3 months. I think I might even make a few converts out of you in the sense that many of you didn't think it was possible to have the boat ready that quickly. I do have a secret. I'm going to let you in on that secret this Friday on how I'm able to move so quickly on the boat build. But the reason for this video is more about Rover's Rest. You see, once I get going on this voyage, I'll be gone for, well, about 2 years, maybe a bit longer. It depends on a number of factors and, places that I go and, maybe the cyclone season that can alter some plans. But during that time, Mrs. Rover will come and visit some of the more interesting ports, but largely she is going to be running the homestead all by herself. Now, running a homestead is a bit like running a boat because the homestead, we're in a rural area of a fairly rural province of Canada on the east coast, Prince Edward Island. And we have to look after our septic system, that's the sanitary system of a house. We have to look after our water system, so we have our very own well. The house itself is, well, it's a passively heated house for the most part. The windows are all south-facing. The walls are super insulated. I did a very interesting technique that you can see on my other channel on how I built these walls so that there's a thermal break between the outside and inside, which makes the house super efficient and really easy to heat. We have chickens, of course, that give us food. We have a total of 5 acres, which is enough room to run, say, a small herd of sheep. I don't know, flock of sheep, and a small, maybe a couple of calves, some geese. We have the chickens, of course, for eggs, and we have a massive garden. So in many ways, this is a self-sufficient little holding. But there is one thing we absolutely need, and that's electricity. Electricity to come in and service the ventilation system in the house, which it doesn't take a lot of power, but it's absolutely necessary when you build a super efficient house like this. We also need the power for communications, for cooking, hot water, all those other things. So that is the one area where we're bringing the electricity in from the mains on the island, and that's where we get our power from. But what happens when that power goes down? And it did this past summer. In fact, it goes down fairly frequently throughout the season, but usually only for a day or two. But this past summer, when the hurricane came through, well, it took down power on the island in some areas for up to 2 weeks. Now, granted, where we are, we only lost it for a little over 50 hours. But even that amount of time, you're beginning to think, is this ever going to end? Where do I get my power from? Is all the stuff that I grew and produced during the summer, is it going to spoil in the freezer? How do I communicate with the outside world? They still have power. I have the internet, I've got a phone, but I don't have power to power it. So all those factors led me to think, well, we've got 2 options. We can either get a gasoline generator, which is the direction that most people go because, you can get a big enough one that you can run most systems in a house, but it requires that you, A, do maintenance on that machine, because if you don't, and you only have a power outage, say every 6 months, and you go to start it, and it won't start because it's clogged or it wasn't maintained properly or it's missing a filter or something got in the fuel line, all entirely possible. Or B, you have to rotate your gasoline every few weeks to keep the gasoline from getting stale, because these days we have chemicals inside the gasoline for, I believe it's to help the environment somehow, but that causes the gasoline to go stale. If you don't change it up, you're going to be in trouble. So that's a lot of faffing about to maintain this machine that you may only use once or twice a year. There is another option. The other option is the very same thing that I'm doing for Wave Rover, and that is a portable power station. And in this case, Bluetti has sent me a massive portable power station. I want to show you what it's like, that is going to really power the whole house, and a solar array that goes with it. So this is the Bluetti 200 Max. Now you've seen me talk about this in the past, and this is the unit that I'll be taking on Wave Rover with me. And that'll be a pretty cool set of videos when I go to do the electric on Wave Rover, because we're going to integrate this into the ship's electrical, and it is going to be the most amazing backup system you can have. In fact, if I wasn't planning such a big voyage, if I was just doing coastal cruising, this would be all I would need on my boat for electrical. Now, this, of course, is good and would be good for powering the house for a few hours if it came to that in an emergency. But of course, I'll have this with me on Wave Rover. It won't be here, but instead, I'll have this. So this is the Bluetti 5000. It is a beast. So the Bluetti 5000, well, why is it even called the 5000? It's called the 5000 because its inverter, that's something that takes battery power, that's DC, and it turns it into AC, which is the type of power you have in your house that comes from the mains. So it can do that right up to 5,000 watts. So the smaller Bluetti, the 200 Max, you've seen me use that in my workshop to operate the table saw and some of my other heavier equipment. That has a 2,000 watt inverter. This has a 5,000 watt inverter. So it is incredibly powerful. This can now operate the heavy appliances that I have here at Rovers Rest. For example, the pump that we have in our well, which is a heavy-duty pump that pumps water from about 100 feet down in the earth all the way up to our system and pressurizes it just like you would have in a normal city. This can run your washer dryer. It can run a lot of your heavy duty. Now at the same time, it can also run, you can power your charging devices for your iPhone or your computer. You know, it's an amazing piece of kit. Now that 5,000 watts, that is sustainable. It can power at that rate, you know, that's its maximum power rate, but it can, when you start a heavy electric motor, and I explained this again previously with the 200 Max, when you start an electric motor, it takes extra energy to get that motor turning. So that's called a surge. And in this case, the 5,000 watts can actually surge right to 10,000 watts of surge. It's phenomenal. That's more than I think I could really need for what our plans are. Now, the reason I like this machine is because this is plug and play. And that's what Mrs. Rover wants. She doesn't want to be messing around changing the oil on a gasoline generator for the few hours that she needs power. She just wants to be able to take this unit, roll it out of the pantry on this really nice little dolly I built with four casters. So you just roll it out to wherever you need, plug whatever device you need into it, whether it's the fridge or the freezer or even just a reading light. or charging your phone or computer. You know, you can do a lot with this machine. Now, this has one battery right now, and it's the 300S, and that battery has a capacity of 3,000 watts. This unit up here, this has no battery in it. This top unit, this is the brains of the whole modular setup, if you will, because this has the MPPT, just like we would have on a boat. That's the it has the controller, it has a whole variety of things that helps manage the whole system. The battery, I said modular, and the reason I say modular is because you can have up to 6 of these stacked on top of each other or in a couple of banks, and then they use these heavy cables to connect them all, which gives you a staggering 18,000 watts of capacity. That is a lot. And Bluetti, if you are watching this, and I hope you are right now, please send me some more of these batteries. I'd really like to expand this unit right up to its maximum potential, because 18,000 watts, 18 kilowatts of battery capacity, I mean, that's enough to run the house for quite a period of time. Now, like I said, the reason I like this is plug and play, because what you do is you just take a simple wire, just like this, you plug it into the wall, and then you plug it into the side of this machine, and this charges your machine. And you charge it up when you have power, and then you just roll it off to the side, and you just wait until there's an event where you need to have this come in, and it's ready to go. Just pull it out and plug it in. It's that simple. Now, there's a lot of technical details in this. I don't really have enough time to go into it because there's a lot of in-depth things this can do, certainly more than I could possibly say in this video. But I'm going to put a link to another YouTuber called Hobotech, who does a phenomenal job. He's a bit of a mad scientist by the looks of it, but he does a phenomenal job talking about the technical details, the capacity, how to link this together, how to get the most out of it. And I will put a link in the video description. You can go there and see all those details. Now, you might be saying, hey Alan, if this is the brains and this is the battery, if I want to, can I just charge the battery, or if I have a second one, can I charge the battery and take it out and, you know, move it around? Of course you can, because these things are totally detachable. I would have to undo this cable, but really they come apart just like that. Now, the nice thing about that is I can, once I detach that big cable, this becomes an autonomous unit. You can turn it on, and just like that, it comes on, and now this unit, I can charge things up with it. I can, well, because they're linked together, it just brought the brain into the system. But if they weren't linked together, this unit by itself, you can charge it, you can operate devices from it. You have 12 volt, 10 amp cigarette type plug-in right here. You have the USB-C and a USB-A. Terrific little device all by itself. If you wanted to take it camping, you would have 3,000 watts of DC power just with this unit alone. Another thing about this is it has rapid charging on the top, or there it just shows my age. Not rapid, but wireless charging on the top for all those wireless devices. Personally, I don't own any, but most likely in the future I will, and you'll be able to charge them just by placing them on top of this unit. So the Bluetti is really the Cadillac of the portable power systems, and they know it, and as a result they offer a 3-year warranty. That's a phenomenal warranty. You rarely see 3 years. And in that time, they will look after you. They've been very good. I had a couple of questions I had to ask them. They got right back to me. Everything on it just seems proper. You know, everything is nice and firm. I'll just shut this off here right now. Everything works as it should. The frames themselves inside these black cases, they're aluminum. This is a strong piece of kit. And then the black plastic, it's not a cheap plastic. This is ABS plastic. That's the same plastic that we use in North America for plumbing inside our houses. And the reason we use ABS for that is because it lasts for decades, if not forever. So it's a well-built machine. Now, let's just take a look at some of the what we have here. We have 20 amp, 110 volt outlets here, 3 of them. And then we have a 30 amp outlet, another 30 amp, and a 50 amp outlet. As well, we have, our USB A's. That's another A, and USB-C, and another USB-C. 100 watts, that's a lot. And then we've got some more DC output. This can do so much more than I would ever ask it to do. But my point is that it's really, really well made. Now, when I first got a hold of this machine and I was powering it and I was, getting it to operate for the first time, I couldn't get it to operate, and I had to call their technical people, and they set me straight right away. You see, when you put these connections on, you have to lock them in place, and I had locked the lower one, but not the upper one. And once you don't have that lock on, it's very simple. Just put the lock on, it'll operate properly. With the lock off, it just won't operate. Now, these are really well made. There's a nice connection. You can see right here and right there, and then put it in. See if I can do this with one hand. It requires a bit of, there we go, a nice click, and then put the lock on, and then you can start up the machine. Like I said, it can do so much. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. You can operate it from your phone. Again, Hobotech, the channel I told you about, will explain all that. Now, you're probably saying, Alan, that's great, you can plug it in, but what if you do have a period where you have no power for 2 weeks? Which would, they call that a once-in-a-century storm, so I don't expect it again in my lifetime, but let's say it does happen. How do I go about charging this? So Bluetti sent me 2 of these. These are 200 watt solar panels, if you can believe it. So the 2 together add up to 400 watts. How does it work? Well, this is a really nice piece of kit. Again, like I said, Bluetti is the Cadillac of this stuff. So this is a high quality solar panel. So Bluetti has really thought this out well. These are the kind of flexible solar panels that can take a little bit of wear and tear. In fact, you could walk on these and they'd be just fine. They supply all the cables, that's right here, to connect all these together with the machine, and a great, easy to understand owner's manual. But like I said, again, this is the 3rd time I'm saying it, Hobotech, and a link will be in the video description, will walk you through all the capacity, all the data you need to understand this. But for someone like me, I just want to know that I can take these panels, I can plug them into this machine, and it's going to charge this machine. And I can take this array, which is, as I said, 200 watts, and they gave me a second array, which again is another 200 watts. Link those together so that you have 400 watts of solar going into and charging this. So, you know, just roughly in your head, you can say, well, that's 3,000 watts of battery capacity, 4,000 watts of solar. Well, you know, it's going to take probably 8 to 10 hours to charge this battery from solar. But this battery has a huge amount of capacity, and you can expand this out right up to 3,000 solar watts of capacity, of charging capacity for this. So if you own your own solar array, you can plug it into this machine. You don't have to use the Bluetti. But these are really, really cool. And I think I'm going to be taking one of these, at the very least, as a backup on Wave Rover, because you saw it folds up into just a tiny little suitcase size, slim package that can fit anywhere on the boat. Well, for one reason or another, I get asked to do product placements all the time. I generally say no. Probably 9 times out of 10, I am saying no to those products because they're either inferior quality or I just don't see how I could possibly need or use them. But in the case of portable power systems, I didn't really know of what they did before I started working on Wave Rover, but I understand it now, and I absolutely endorse this kind of product because it gives me a great feeling to know that when I'm off sailing and there's a power failure here at Rover's Rest, Mrs. Rover is going to have no problem pulling this out of the pantry and just plugging whatever she needs into this, knowing that it's going to work right away. You know, that could be the deep freeze. That was one of our big concerns, the deep freeze. You know, we load it up with produce from our garden and maybe some meat products that, you know, we've raised on the property. They're really valuable to us, more valuable than if we had purchased them in the store because, you know, we raised it ourselves. So you would hate to see that spoil for a lack of electricity in your freezer. So that was one of the most important things that we wanted from some sort of backup electrical system. Another reason that we wanted a backup electrical system, of course, is water. So, you know, an absolute necessity is water. And then the third big one for us is communication. Well, this meets our need in spades, and the fact that it's expandable, so I can purchase another 5 of these batteries to get this out to its full capacity, and that's a huge capacity, 18 kilowatt, 18,000 watts of capacity. Phenomenal. Very happy with this product. However, Friday, in a couple of days' time, there is a new video. I'll be back on board Wave Rover, and it's going to be a walkthrough. I think you're going to love that video. It's going to be a real eye-opener what Wave Rover looks like now. So until next time, Rovers, thanks for watching.